We're here with Gordon from Stamford Audio, big support of the show. How long have you been doing it now?
Whatever it is, 9 years now, I suppose.
Yeah. The blur.
Yeah, yeah.
I think the thing we need to get to very quickly, because he's a busy man, he's selling records today. Put your finger on why the vinyl revival suddenly sort of really has come back into play.
The media and downloads.
Yeah.
Vinyl obviously had a bad period from the sort of 90s when digital arrived.
Guilty.
Yeah. But then towards the end of the 90s, things like New Order's 12-inch came out, and it sold 1 million copies.
Did it?
Yeah. And then vinyl has always been strong. The problem is with the media, they obviously tend to focus on what they can actually quantify, which goes by charts, and it doesn't take into account things like this where 70% of what I'm selling is pre-owned, second-hand, whatever you like. And I mean, I bought my first single in 1963 and been dealing in vinyl since 70s. And I went through the thing where in the 90s I bought a CD transport and DAC for £4,000, and at the same time bought a dual 505 turntable for 50 quid.
I had a Wadier as well, Gordon.
Yeah,
so
and I regretted spending £4,000. As I say, the sort of growth has started in the sort of mid-noughties, around 2005, when downloads and that started to come in, and then obviously with Spotify, Apple, and so forth. And that's, people are always looking for not only the stuff they like, but maybe looking for new stuff to listen to. And you used to, when a record came out, you recommended it to them, but they were a bit fearful paying £20 for something they didn't know.
Yeah.
Now they have the opportunity to just listen to it on their telephone.
I think the thing about second-hand records is that people say new vinyl is expensive. Now, yeah, we all agree that it is, and I think they should also give you a full lossless download with it rather than an MPS version. But the great thing about second-hand vinyl is that if something's well cared for, you could buy today on your stall, you could go and buy 7 albums for 20 quid, and they're well looked after, and you drop the needle and you go, wow.
Yeah.
It's not as expensive as people think to get into.
No, I think the thing is that, you can buy turntables now, you can buy these Crossley ones at 80 quid, you can buy project ons at 120, 130 quid to get back into vinyl. And then, I think the most expensive turntable now is £50,000.
Yeah.
But most people, thankfully, just want to listen to the music.
I think our ears are just tuned to this analog sound that we like, and whether people call it coloured or whatever, the thing with downloads and digital music is there's a preciseness to it that sometimes we, with our listening ear, don't actually like.
Well, the thing is that obviously with analog, you have a wave of sound, and obviously you get peaks and troughs, so that moving around the room, you can actually get a different sound. With digital, it's based on noughts and ones.
Yeah.
To create a picture of sound. And, it's a bit like when you, say, watching Sky and you suddenly got a snowstorm and it's, you only and the whole thing breaks up. With analog, the wave is always just continues, keeps going.
The way I look at it, and you can often tell with vinyl, when you drop the needle, you often think the music's going to fly off this disc sometimes, and sometimes it doesn't, but when you get a good recording and a good pressing on analog, it's something else, isn't it? You just go, wow. Yeah,
no, I mean, I think it's the warmth of it and that people find more inviting. And digital, to me, is fatiguing, particularly over, some people, if they're going to have a listening session, they might sit down for 6 or 7 hours. If they've got a valve set up, it's going to take an hour for the valves to maybe warm up to the right temperature. But, I suppose it's because I've been listening to vinyl for so long.
So what was your first single that you bought?
It was an Eden Cane, but I can't remember what it was. I think it was a bribe because I had to go to the dentist or something.
I remember I got a job when I was 13, working for the local express dairies as a milk boy on a Saturday. And after every 4 weeks, I had enough money
to go
and buy my album. I think the first one I got was Regatta de Blanc, and then
Right. Okay.
which was 79. You know,
Yeah.
but I like you. I went away from it. I got to a point where I just wanted no crackles and pops, and you know, I just wanted clean music. And then in 2009, suddenly I thought, you know what, I'm gonna, and I sort of wonder why I went away from it actually, because I love it now. You know,
Yeah. I mean, I think it's interesting that if you were buying records in the, you know, I mean, the original LPs came out in the late 40s, but if you were buying in the 60s, then Snap, Crackle and Pop was what it was.
Yeah.
There wasn't the. It's only with the digital sound, I think, and this sort of resurgence of audio sound that people want a clear, no background noise, no
I think
noise
I
at
think
all.
we have to sort of stress here as well that there are many cheap options on the market to clean your records, but you know, I think once you start getting, you've got maybe if you start amassing maybe 400 or 500.
Oh, yeah.
vinyl, I think you know we've got to stress that. Do get yourself, if you can afford it, even second hand, get yourself a proper record cleaner with a wax, because the difference is night and day when you do it.
Yeah, I mean, I think you know, I sell the Okinoki, which is
Yeah.
435 quid. I mean, it's the best thing on the market until you get to
Yeah,
a
we-
Loricraft.
Yeah,
But it does. If you just want a clean record so you listen to it, then
Yeah.
that's fine. But if you buy records as a business and you want the best out of it, then yes, you'll get a Loricraft or a
Yeah.
Keith Monk's. But you know, cleaning a record, particularly an old record, it's interesting. You can look at a 60s record, looks absolutely trashed, and you play it and you can't hear anything. You
Yeah.
put a modern piece on, which is bright and shiny, and all you get is this surface noise.
So where are we with pressing plants at the moment for vinyl? Is it
Well,
are we starting up
one of
again,
one of the biggest ones is the one in the Czech Republic, which is an old Russian plant, which a lot of people like Universal use. We've just released another album on the Stamford Audio label, and we had it pressed in North London by Vinyl Factory, which is the old EMI plant. And the difference between the two was not a lot price-wise.
Some vinyl factory stuff. It's pretty
Yeah,
good.
no, it's good, and it's nice and flat. There are some pressings where you get them, particularly if you go for a 140 gram, you get an edge warp,
yeah.
and a 180 grammer should be nice and flat and rigid.
I mean, as I said to you before, off camera, I mean, I've got records that are like 200 grams, and I've got one that you can wobble.
Yeah,
And the one that you can wobble, it's just it is all to do with recording at the end of the day and how well it's put down. You
so
know.
one of the first problems was back in the early 70s when the first oil crisis was on.
Yeah.
It became too expensive, so that's when you got this 110, 120 gram.
Yeah.
Well, I think they called it, RCA called it Dynaflex or something. But yeah, you could do that with it. But it, you know, the production qualities in the 60s really on the whole are better than they are
Yeah.
now. Because the problem is, the process is that you either have it from a digital master or take it from the original tapes, and then you're sent to test pressing, and you are supposed to sit down and listen to those 5 or 10 pressings, and then if you're happy, you give them the go-ahead. With a lot of record labels, and I know one record label, they only produced a small amount and didn't test press it, and each one had a fault on it. And if you have a fault on a batch, it usually is the whole batch.
I think that's the key thing today is for new pressings is it's about the quality control,
Yeah.
because we all agree in the industry that new vinyl costs a lot of money these days. So it's got to be right. You know, it shouldn't be warped. It shouldn't have, you know. It shouldn't, you know. It should be when you drop the needle, it should look flat, and you should play it.
No.
And you're right. I mean, I've bought records second hand from the 70s, and they're like it's like a plateau. You know,
Yeah.
there's nothing wrong. You know,
Yeah.
but I think the great thing is though that young people are getting back into it.
Yeah.
And that's quite an amazing fact when they're the download generation, isn't it? You know, in a way.
It's funny because there's this thing about CDs and vinyl is with vinyl you can read the notes and you get an infill with it. Often with it when you get a CD you get nothing with it, and it's interesting that
It's not a tactile process.
no,
at all, is it? No.
that's it. It is a tactile process. I know, you know, some of the statistics say that people actually don't play the vinyl.
Weird to me, but true. Yeah.
A lot of people will buy them just as an investment, and people will buy them to support the artist, even if they don't have a record player,
Mm.
and some of them just like put it in one of these things you stick on the wall, and
I know, yeah.
you know, and that's why certain labels are doing coloured vinyls now, so you can stick those on, because there's always this thing about the
Can I
present.
ask you a question about
Mm.
coloured vinyl? Because is it like an audio myth that it actually it's not as good as just having?
Well, some people think that vinyl, the blackness comes from magnesium, and if you take the magnesium away, the sound quality will be better. I mean, Ryko, which was an American label, they did a whole load of clear pressings, and because they felt the sound quality was better.
Yeah, I'm a little bit 50-50 on whether.
I mean, I sell.
I don't buy picture discs.
Well, I mean, you shouldn't play picture discs anyway,
No.
because God knows the damage they're doing. But the thing is that you have you have two forums in it, or two levels. People want to just listen to music, and they're happy to pay £2, £5, £10 for a record. But then you've got the audiophile people, and they want the best they can get.
Yeah.
And if they're paying up to £50 or £60 an album, they rightfully expect it to be perfect.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's not the case.
Yeah.
You know, the whole a lot of people, particularly American labels, they try to use the original tapes.
Yeah.
So the sound quality is much better.
Yeah. Well, it's been great chatting today, mate.
Thank you
Good to
very
have
much.
You here, and we'll see you next year, hopefully again.
Yeah, and thank you for the coffee.
You're welcome to coffee. Thanks very much.